next speaker is Kathleen Cox. Kathleen, working together with her husband, Earl Cox, have both made a difference in the lives of many Israelis. Their stated purpose is to build bridges of understanding and friendship between Christian and Jewish communities across America. No easy task. Our grassroots group met Kathleen Cox a few months ago, and I'm really looking forward to what she brings us today. Please welcome Kathleen Cox.
Thank you so very much for being here today. There's so many other things you could have been doing with your Sunday afternoon, but you've chosen to invest your time here promoting support for Israel by your presence. And I feel so honored to be here and to be among the very special, distinguished guest speakers who are here with you today. I'm actually going to open with something that I was going to conclude with. You already understand in this room the need to support Israel. And I hope you will leave here today with a little bit more knowledge on why that is so important. Nihad Awad, who is the executive director, or at least he was at the time, of the Council on American Islamic Relations, said in a meeting in Philadelphia, "When I speak with the American, I speak with someone who doesn't know anything." Can you imagine that? Well, we need to make sure that we are not counted among those people who do not know anything. I am here today representing my husband, Earl Cox, who is the founder of an all-volunteer organization, Israel Always, and yes, our goal is to build bridges of friendship and understanding between Christian and Jewish communities across America and around this world, for the sole purpose so that together we can stand strong in support of Israel. He's also the founder of an international radio broadcast called Front Page Jerusalem Global Radio Network. It's produced each week out of Jerusalem, Israel. And Earl and his broadcast partner, Ben Kinchlow. Some of you might remember Ben. He's the former longtime co-host of the popular Christian television program, The 700 Club. Well, Ben and Earl would have been here with you today, except that they are in other parts of the country speaking at rallies in support of Israel. And I share that information with you so that you will be encouraged to know that while we are gathered here in Columbia, South Carolina, promoting support for Israel, there are many other people in many other places doing the very same thing. I've been asked to come here today to share with you why I believe it's important that we support Israel. First of all, I'm standing here before you as a Christian, and God says I should. In Genesis chapter 12 and in Isaiah chapter 40, he tells me to comfort ye my people. And that's exactly what we strive to do through the many programs and projects currently underway through Israel Always. But I'm also here today because I'm an American who loves my country. I love freedom and democracy and the Judeo-Christian values upon which our land is founded. Hey. So why support Israel? Because like America, Israel is a democracy, and it is America's only true friend and ally in the Middle East. And yes, Israel is a tiny country, and it is no bigger than one of our smallest states, New Jersey. It's no wider in some parts than 9 miles. It sits in the middle of a hotbed of Arab hatred. It's surrounded by neighbors on all sides who want nothing more than to see her wiped off the face of the earth, to exist no more. Israel is on the front lines of the war on terror, but it is not Israel only war on terror. It is the world's war on terror. And what's on Israel's doorstep today is going to be on our doorstep tomorrow, because Israel's enemies are our enemies. And I was so pleased to hear Congressman Wilson refer to a homicide bomber as a homicide bomber, because that's exactly what they are. But he was puzzled over the fact how people could do something like that, and it's the nature of the enemy. You see, it's those who love life versus those who love death. Under Islam, there are only two ways to heaven. One is to die a martyr's death, and the other is at the discretion of Allah when you die. So that's how people can choose to make that decision, to wipe out not only themselves, but other innocent people. Now there is a madman on the loose in the Middle East, and his name is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and he's the president of Iran. And every day, with a smile on his face, he boldly declares to the world that he intends to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, followed by America. And you know, he's supported by Muslim and Arab countries all around the world. He's supported by Hamas and Hezbollah, and you know why? Because they are on his payroll. They are kind of like his foreign policy arm. We have to take him seriously. We must demand that a stop be put to him spreading his poisonous rhetoric. Just this past Friday, before the Jewish people in Israel entered Shabbat, I was on the phone with an Orthodox lady friend who said to me, "You people need to be Israel's shofar. You need to wake up the world. You need to let them know what's truly happening." Anti-Semitism is indeed on the rise, and it is indeed largely fueled by the way mainstream media chooses to report the news. And for example, let's look at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Media always highlight the Palestinian civilian casualties. They make Israel appear to be the aggressor, the oppressor, and the villain. There are a lot of civilian casualties, but why is that? And it's because Hamas plans it that way. They want collateral damage, and they want it to be their own people because it plays well for the media.
Right.
They set up their rockets, they set up their command bases in the most populated, concentrated areas they can find, on rooftops of houses, schools, hospitals, any place where they can cause damage. Excuse me, I'm not normally a public speaker. My mouth is terribly dry. I guess it's nerves. But in any event, they set up on housetops. They set up in places. Israel has the technology to pinpoint where those rockets come from. So when they retaliate, yes, they are going to strike into populated areas. But you know what they do first? It's something no other people or nation on the face of the earth does. They warn the enemy in advance that they intend to come in and strike. They call. They have a phone bank. They will call the apartment complex. They will call wherever they need to go in to retaliate to let them know their plans. Who does that? Who's ever heard of such a thing? Hamas. Israel loves life, and they love all life. That's why they go in and advise the people before they engage in a retaliatory strike. Now, in 2005, my husband and I lived the entire year in Israel. So we were there during the Gaza disengagement, and we lived in the same building with literally hundreds of innocent Israeli families that had been evacuated from Gush Katif.